Okay, I think we're live. How's it going? How you doing, Val? You all right?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So my name's Connor. Welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin Developers Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. Like we're kind of all over the place at this point. You'll have to bear with me because I'm a bit under the weather, so my voice is a little bit like groggy, but the show must go on.
You must.
Um, it must go on. So we've got a really interesting episode for you today. We're going to talk about contributing to open source and the Lightning Development Kit specifically. So we're going to go through like, how to get started, how to kind of open issues, how to review code, like some code of conduct stuff, how to write tests, how to run tests, how to like add examples, give you like just a general overview of what it takes and what it entails to contribute to LDK. But before we get into that, Val, you've been on the show before, and I think the previous show we did was it's in many ways it is one of the ways to contribute to LDK. And we talked about how you'd go about like running an LDK sample. So you've been on the show before, so thank you for coming back. How are you, and like what have you been up to recently?
Great. Yeah, that's true. It's kind of like a natural like follow-on episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been good. Just getting back from the holidays. My thing is async payments now, so I got the pressure's on to get stuff in for the next release, basically.
Do you want to
Yeah.
tell us just very quickly what async payments are?
Yes, love to plug these. So basically, there's a huge problem in Lightning where if you're offline, you can't receive payments. So that can be a big issue for especially non-custodial mobile users. If they've quit the app or their phone is dead, like they won't be able to receive. So async payments are a way where the sender or their LSP will hold on to the payment until the receiver sends them an onion message saying like, "Hey, I'm online now. You can release the payment." So that's an
Okay.
improvement on previous async payment schemes because it doesn't tie up liquidity along the route. And
Okay.
but yeah, it's building on some cool stuff, building on offers and onion messages. So yeah,
Oh, awesome.
developing space.
Okay, cool. And how far are you into that development, and what's it look like for the rest of the ecosystem to adopt as well?
So in terms of development, pretty early, still doing some refactors that need to come ahead of it. Like we have to move all our payment retries logic, and you also need trampoline for this, actually, in case the sender is also a mobile non-custodial user. Their
Hmm.
LSP needs trampoline to retry on their behalf, or there. I think there might be some other schemes, but this is basically the way that we're going with, since we want trampoline anyway. So yeah, in terms of the rest of the ecosystem, I think a lot of people are working on the building blocks such as onion messages, offers, trampoline, and stuff like that. I think Eclair is might have like a proprietary version right now, even of something like this, or in
Okay.
development. So
Hmm.
they're also investing in it, and then they're gonna do the specked out version eventually. So yeah, it seems to be pretty widely people agree like this is a problem and this seems like a good solution. Definitely a little bit more on the long term side, I'd say, as things
Okay.
go. But yeah, I hope we can get it into people's mobile wallets like in the next year or two. That'd be awesome. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. That sounds fantastic. And other than ASIC payments, what else are you excited to see development wise across Bitcoin and Lightning this year?
There's so much stuff. I'm
Hmm.
excited for us to finish our offers work. That's going to be really good and kind of get that into some wallets. And some other team members are working on Taproot channels, which is also really exciting. And that's also going to be the basis for PTLCs, which also provide a lot of improvements to async payments and just a lot of improvements in general. And yeah, in terms of LDK specifically, I'm most excited for the LDK node project because I think that's going to be the biggest win for us in terms of getting people to be able to get up and running much quicker. And because a lot of people just want to use LDK, but they don't want to do like anything crazy with it, so they don't need the full feature set.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, that's good. And you just brought up LDK Node. Hopefully, we'll have some time to touch on a bit about that towards the end of the stream, and tell people how they can like use it, provide feedback, because it's still in its very like early stages. So it represents a perfect opportunity for people to get involved with LDK stuff.
100%.
Okay, so let me just plug one or two things quickly. Let me see if I can present very quickly. Share my screen and I'll share this window. So yeah, we do have members of like the LDK and Spiral team coming to a few conferences over the next couple of the months. The first one being Advancing Bitcoin in London, where we'll be hosting a workshop on LDK and how to build an LDK node using it. It's most likely going to be using Kotlin, so we'll kind of veer towards the kind of Android Kotlin side of things, but the principles should be applicable across kind of any environment for the most part. So I'll be down there hosting a workshop on March 2nd and 3rd in London. You've been to this conference before, haven't you, Val? You were a big fan of Advancing Bitcoin?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, is Leon still there? He was so good.
Yeah.
But it's a really solid team and really good content. So everyone should go.
Yeah, for sure. And we've got a few people joining us in. We've got Bitcoin Xavier. How's it going, my friend? Good to see you hanging out with us.
Hey.
We've also got Ben Nakaman as well, who's been doing a lot of awesome work, putting LDK through its through a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Putting LDK through its full feature set in like a web environment. So appreciate all the work he's been doing
Yeah,
there.
they're pushing the envelope. It's great.
Yeah, that's the word. That's the phrase I'm looking for. Pushing the envelope. Appreciate the work he's doing there. We'll also be in BTC Prague later on in the year. This is in June, so kind of summertime as well. Like we're still trying to like finalize some of the details and stuff, but it will be a strong presence from like the LDK and BDK communities over there as well. So if you happen to be there during that period, feel free to come and hang out and say hi. We'll also be at Bitcoin Park in February. So if you happen to be there in the first week of February as well, I think there's a few meetups and all kind of cool stuff going on at Bitcoin Park in Nashville. So look forward to seeing folks there as well. All right, so let's dive into LDK and contributing specifically. But before we do, let's just very quickly give people like the spiel on an LDK and what it is, just very quickly for anyone who doesn't know what it is.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I should have prepared for this one, but basically LDK is it's a Lightning library, so it's not like a daemon that you run, but it's kind of a set of components that you can like import and interact with its different structs that will manage all the. So the idea is it will manage all kind of the low-level channel logic on your behalf, so you don't have to do any of the complicated stuff, and then as a benefit of that fact that you're importing it and it's all broken down into these different modules like routing, channel management, on-chain stuff, it's very customizable. And especially if you have some kind of interesting requirements, like for example, like the Mutiny wallet is running in the browser on your phone in Safari, you can really customize it to whatever you want, and it works in all different type of environments. And so that also makes it a really good fit for highly privacy focused wallets as well. Like you can have one node per channel type of setups and still receive to any of them. And yeah, there's just a ton of interesting use cases that fall out of that. And also because it's in Rust, it's highly performant and suitable for mobile applications.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thank you for that. So yeah, let's dive straight into contributing to LDK, contributing to open source. One thing I just wanted to touch on quickly though is why do you think it's like a serious potentially career path for like a software developer or different type of role to contribute to open source? Like why is it such an important part of the larger technology and software development industry?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely really important just in terms of decentralization. Like, we want to be open to, I'm sure we'll get into this, but we want to be open to all different types of contributors and experience
Yeah,
levels just to have that decentralization and have LDK feel like a community project as opposed to feel like a very centralized project, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
And yeah, in terms of career path, I think from my perspective, the Lightning ecosystem seems to be growing, and people seem to be taking bear markets as a time to build instead of like despair, type of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of businesses springing up around, particularly like LSPs and like gaming and just cool. I feel like there's a lot of cool UX experimentation that can be done with non-custodial wallets as well. So
yeah.
yeah, just like I feel like it's a totally open and nascent ecosystem right now.
Cool. All right. So, someone wants to start contributing to LDK. One of the places I guess they might want to start is having a look at LDK's like code of conduct and like the kind of things like we might expect from people who are, you know, interested in contributing to the project. And we won't go into like too much details about this, but you can find it in the footer of the main website under code of conduct. And it just basically outlines, in if I was to like give it like a very high level overview, it's just like be nice, be respectful, you know, and work hard on, you know, whatever uh thing you're working on and bring into the project in a nutshell. But it is probably just nice to make people aware of that, and you know, give them put them on the right path towards contributing, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not too like draconian or anything. Just
Exactly,
don't
yeah.
disrupt other people from contributing, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So people should read through that, and then I think next place we might go to is like the different communication channels we have for LDK, because there's a variety of different ways people might communicate with different contributors to the project or ask questions and leave feedback. Um, so one of them is obviously GitHub.
Hmm.
So we can head over to the LDK kind of organization on GitHub. Um, this is like the landing page. It gives you like a bit of an overview of the different repositories that are part of the organization. Um, do you want to talk to like some of the like more the repositories that have a lot of activity around them? Just like very briefly, and then we can maybe go into some of the details of them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so if you want to contribute to LDK, I think most of the contribution goes on at the Rust Lightning repo. So that's
Yeah, just
really,
just just
mhm.
before you go any further, yeah, that sometimes trips people up a little bit as well, because we have like this idea of LDK Lightning Dev Kit, but then like there isn't like technically an LDK repository. We have this Rust Lightning thing, so can you touch on a little bit of that as well?
Yeah, that is a bit weird. That's a bit of a, I guess, historical quirk because Rust Lightning used to live in the Rust Bitcoin organization, but now we moved it to the Lightning Dev Kit organization. So Lightning Dev Kit is kind of defined as like Rust Lightning is at its core LDK, but then there's these kind of other repositories that provide kind of like supporting functionality, particularly language bindings. Like, so that would be like LDK garbage collected and LDK C bindings and LDK Swift. So yeah, those, and then the LDK sample is a really intended to be a very readable sample implementation of using LDK. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. That sounds good. And then uh let's go into like the Rust Lightning repo then, which has like a lot of activity around it, and try and give people a bit more of a outline of like what contributing might look like, especially in the early phases. So we do have like some documentation about that in our contributing markdown file. Do you want to touch on this a little bit and what people can expect to find here?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say this is kind of a good place to start. It's pretty comprehensive. It kind of has everything you need to know. But yeah, it's just kind of about like we'll anyone is welcome to contribute, basically, regardless of technical expertise or anything like that, open source expertise. You can even learn Rust by contributing to LDK, and that's totally fine. And yeah, it's basically communication channels, getting started. One particular note is to kind of start small and kind of like say you have a good first issue and you're not quite sure how to approach it. It's even encouraged to post an approach that you're thinking of on the Discord first and kind of see what people think of it. And yeah, we did have one issue a few years ago where someone did this massive refactor and we didn't even know about it. And then they submitted like 5 huge PRs, and we were in the middle of doing other kind of important features, and it's like we want to be able to support people and stuff like that, but sometimes it's just it's not going to work out if you approach it that way.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's why there's a line where it says understand project culture before investing an asymmetric number of hours compared to your merged work. So
Yep.
but I don't think that'll be an issue for most people.
Okay.
And yeah, just don't worry if the PR you're not sure about it. You can even open it as a draft and get feedback that way. So it's supposed to be fairly low bar to entry, with the caveat that obviously because this is a cryptocurrency project and where bugs can lose people money, there is a large
Yep.
focus on security. So it will be scrutinized a lot from that aspect as well as performance. So yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. All right, cool. So people have a bit of information about like general overview of contributing, general like code of conduct and that kind of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about where people can also communicate. So we've got GitHub. We've also got like a Discord channel, which is I guess primarily for kind of like asynchronous communication, let's say. Maybe let's see if I can head over to the Discord quickly. And we'll show people what's going on in there very quickly. Share screen. If I do, okay, I think we want this one. So we'll very quickly show people our Discord server. So at this point, like the Discord has, I'm not sure at this point, maybe over. It's definitely got over like 500.
I think Steve said like 600.
Yeah, I think we're about 600 people active on the Discord at the moment. So it's quite lively. It's quite bubbly. We have a host of different channels that people can ask different types of questions in. We typically use. Do we want to run through some of these channels as well? Like, so typically, what do we use like the LDK dev channel for?
Yeah, so that's just kind of what it sounds like, anything LDK development related. So if you were trying to contribute a patch or contribute to review or testing, that could be a good place to kind of start, either by posting your approach or just asking what could use some review right now, or what would be a good place to dive in. Yeah.
Cool. And then LDK help.
So LDK help, I think, is more for, I mean, it's flexible, right? But yeah. I'd say it's more for people that are using LDK in their applications and they're running into bugs or issues or need help debugging something. So it's the kind of channel where we'll ask you to post the logs and then try to sort out issues. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So those two are generally like arguably like the two most popular channels in the Discord currently. We also do have other channels like Showcase if you're using LDK and you want to bring some attention to stuff that you're doing. And we have like some more project focused channels as well for specific projects, like whether it be VLS or Watchtowers or the LDK node project. They're very like specific streams of communication for those specific projects. But yeah, we don't have hundreds of channels. It's still very small, so like it's not too difficult to keep track of all the conversation that's happening at the moment. So let me stop sharing my screen and go back to GitHub quickly. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. Okay. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was kind of well, I guess one more communication channel we use, well, we have used in the past a little bit, is like the discussions feature on GitHub as well. It's not as popular as some of our other communication channels. We were previously using Slack, but for a host of reasons we moved to Discord. But the GitHub discussions environment as well is a place where some people have chosen to report bugs and try and get like additional help as well. So there is that option if people feel more comfortable using GitHub as well. Okay, cool. So we've made people aware a little bit of like where the main communication stuff happens. We have a Twitter as well, but that's more, I guess, for like updates and stuff. You wouldn't really use it for reporting bugs or things of that nature. So um let's talk about kind of opening issues with
Hmm.
on in the Lightning Dev Kit organization and Rust Lightning specifically. What should people what kind of things should people be looking to do when opening issues? Should they look at um, already existing issues to see if like the problem they're having already exists? Should they kind of dive in head first and just open an issue and tag loads of people? What sort of advice would you give to people there?
Probably the former. So like a quick search, probably. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but
Hmm.
yeah. Other than that, I feel like most people will post to the Discord rather than open an issue because it's much more live and like instant response. But yeah, if you prefer opening an issue, that's totally fine.
Hmm.
So I feel like this would apply more to LDK users rather than contributing, I guess. But yeah,
Hmm.
you just click that new issue button up there,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
just descriptive title, instructions for reproducing, probably what version of cargo you're using, what version or commit of LDK you're using, and
Hmm.
if it's open source, then like a link to your source code, logs, if that's available. And yeah, you should get a response pretty promptly, I'd say. So yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking actually one thing we could do is try and maybe use an issue template. Actually, that's one thing we might consider, just kind of thinking out loud here, to make that all those things you just said very super easy for people to like fill in like kind of form fashion or form style.
Hmm.
Um, and what are the type of things people can create issues for? Is it predominantly like bugs or feature requests or kind of all of the above type of scenario?
Yeah, pretty all of the above. Definitely if something's missing that you want, that would be a good thing to do. Either Discord or issue is fine. And
Hmm.
yeah, similarly with bugs for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and the other thing as well when filing issues is it's important to try and make the issue or bug you're facing kind of like reproducible as well.
Hmm.
So if you're using LDK and you come across some issues, some clear instructions on how like a developer can reproduce that and run that maybe in their own local machine or in some other environment is also like very helpful, right?
Yeah, definitely reproduction instructions. I
Cool.
think yeah, I think Tony from Mutiny Wallet posted a good issue a few weeks ago. But yeah. Anyway,
Okay, if
yeah.
if we can find it, we can maybe show users as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I was thinking that
Late
it might
later
be.
on in the stream.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh, um, okay, no worries. If we find that, we can show that to people later on.
Hmm.
Um, okay, cool. So that's a little bit around creating issues. What about like someone who wants to contribute? We have this tag here that I'm seeing, like purple tag called "Good First Issues." What is that in reference to?
Yeah, that's definitely the first place you may want to. Well, that's a good early step, I think, in contributing, is checking out
Hmm.
the good first issues tab. Just because,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of in the name. It doesn't take a ton of deep code based knowledge or anything
Okay.
crazy like that. And yeah, if it seems unclear, you're also welcome to say like roughly how should I go about this, like comment on the issue, or post on the Discord. That's totally fine. I would say the easy wins tend to get snapped up pretty quickly, at least recently. So I don't know if there's some kind
Okay.
of notification setting for that, but yeah, that could
Okay.
be good to know.
Okay, and that makes sense. So, are the good first issues like very like self-contained pieces of work? Like they don't tend to affect too much of the code base. They can kind of be done in isolation. Like you say, you don't need a vast amount of experience with the whole code base. You should be able to, read the description and kind of get going straight away, pretty much.
Yeah, no, that's completely accurate.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, good first issues. Cool. I'm trying to think, is there anything else with regards to issues? Probably not. I think that's a nice little summary of like issues and stuff like that. Um,
Hmm.
One thing I wanted to talk on as well next is releases.
Hmm.
How do people like how do like releases work? So when issues have been created, new features have been added, like, and the project goes into kind of like a release phase, like how can people find out about what's been added to a new release? How does all of that kind of stuff work?
Yeah, definitely. So we try to have about a monthly release cadence. I think this release we're going for 1 to 2 months, so it can vary a little bit. But it kind of depends because some projects are broken up into multiple different PRs, but we kind of need to land all of them before the next release, if that makes sense, in order
Okay.
for the API to be in a consistent state. So that can kind of affect release timelines as well. But kind of what you want to look at if you want to see what's upcoming on the next release would be the milestones, which I think is under the issues tab
Okay.
on the right, I
Let's
think.
see. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Milestone. You want to go to above that. Oh, that works. Yeah, actually.
Uh,
Sorry. That works. Um,
um, I think you're all right. I think we can go here. Yeah, here we go. This is probably better.
yeah. So the upcoming
Um,
one is dot 14. And so you can see that there's 15 open issues for it, 14 closed. So Matt Corallo pretty much manages the releases. So
mhm.
he'll kind of add a lot of issues or pull requests that we think need to land by the next release. And
Yep.
some of them are like absolutely required. We need to get this in. It's
Mhm.
affecting users or something like that. And
Mhm.
some other ones tend to be more low priority. So it would be great to get them in the release. And if someone wants to tackle them, they can. But if it slips, that's also okay.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a mix of those two buckets.
Okay, that makes sense. So a flow might look like someone obviously identifies what the latest release version is. In this case, is 0.0.113, and then they like check out. They can check out the release notes as well. And Matt does a fantastic job of putting these together and links them to all of the pull requests that were merged and stuff like that. Um, Includes bug fixes and its backwards compatibility, and then like a list of all of the contributors for that release as well, which is really nice. So someone can look at that, and then they can look at kind of the next release and see what's on the up and coming milestone. So in this case, it would be 114. If they're a super new contributor, see if there's any good first issues that can get involved in. We seem to have one here, and then
Hmm.
generally like look through some of these issues and see if there's anything of interest to them and kind of get a feel for what's up and coming in terms of like immediate work. Anyway, does that sound
Hmm.
fair?
Yeah, no, that's super accurate. I think one thing to be aware of is if your issue is on the next release, you may be expected to act in a more timely manner towards it, if that makes sense.
Okay,
So a lot of
cool.
first issues were like, you can do this over the next months or whatever, and we don't really care. And you
Okay.
can kind of hold on to it. But yeah, if a release is coming up and it's crucial for some reason, then it's totally fine if people get busy. It's just that someone may take it over. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Got a whole list of things I want to run through here, so I'm kind of trying to speed through them as best I can. But we'll save that one till a bit later. So let's talk about peer review, and how that kind of works with LDK. So um I guess there's two sides of this, right? There is like if you're new or if you gain some experience in the project and you want to add new features, fix bugs, you can go ahead and actively open what are known as pull requests, which are like requests to essentially change the current state of the software that you're contributing to, and then in the hope that someone will review that and it will get merged and it becomes part of like the next releases that we just spoke about. So there's that side, but there's also the side of like you can choose to like review someone's code, and someone who has put in some time and effort to again fix a bug or add a new feature, and give them support in that way as well. So let's talk about the first case where like someone wants to like open their first pull request on LDK. Like what should that look like?
Yeah. So you have your issue or your test you want to write or your documentation update, and
Hmm.
so you want to, I guess, starting from zero, clone the repo, make sure Rust is installed. I just use Rust up from the website. Matt thinks that's
Hmm.
insecure and thinks you should build from source. So
Okay.
yeah, you can take that, and
Okay.
yeah, clone the repo, and then just write your test or whatever. And I guess if your change should be split up in, if it has multiple different parts, you should split it up into multiple different commits. But each commit should also build and ideally pass tests, but at least build. And earlier commits should not be fixed by later commits, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Like you shouldn't write
Hmm.
something and then rewrite it in a later commit. So
Hmm.
it should be quite like easy to follow the commit history. Like start with the first commit. Like okay, that adds this. Then yeah, and each commit as it goes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So once you have your commit history all sorted out, and make sure that it's kind of doesn't have any rebase conflicts with mains, you might want to rebase before you open the pull request.
Hmm.
Then you should just push to your branch, because you originally, oh, sorry, you also have to fork Rust Lightning.
Hmm.
And yeah, then you would just do the, I think the new pull request button. For me, GitHub will just say at the top of the screen, like, hey, you just pushed to this branch. Do you want to open
Yeah.
the pull request? So that's always the flow that I go through.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
Yeah, and
kind of,
if that's not making sense for like new people, like there's so much like good documentation on how to like create good pull request and solid commit hygiene and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, it's like on GitHub's website itself, there's a really a lot of good documentation around that. Maybe what we can do to like help bring it to light for a few people is like go through like a pull request that's open now and just show people like a good example of a pull request that's done by one of the contributors on the project. Does that
yeah,
sound good?
definitely. Yeah, that sounds great. I actually found one that I thought would be cool because it is
Okay.
by a non-spiral contributor who's
Oh, cool.
become a really mature LDK contributor that tackles really significant features. Yeah, I just sent it in our chat.
Okay, let me grab it here.
But
Let's
it also
see.
has a really good commit history.
Okay, cool. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is by Victor. So, I mean, I don't know if we have to go through each commit, but basically each one.
Well,
Oh,
let's
yeah.
start actually on this view. Actually, yeah, like
Yeah.
so I'm just seeing this PR for the first time as well. So he specifies what issue this is solving,
Hmm.
1945. So we can quickly click over to the issue. This seems like it's like doing a lot of follow-ups and stuff, and
It's a follow
some,
up.
yeah, it's a follow-up. And so you, again, if it's a follow-up, you can still trace it to like the origin kind of pull request or issue.
Yeah, so this was
Um,
a follow up because he had this huge pull request that conflicted with a bunch of
yeah,
things. So we decided to land it as quickly as possible and save as much
cool,
for follow up as possible, if that makes
awesome.
sense. And that's
Yeah.
definitely also a big part of our culture, I guess,
Yeah.
is we like to kind of land stuff and then save stuff for follow up so that the review process doesn't drag on and
Cool.
people feel like it's taking forever. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. So he's nicely identified like what issue this is a part of. And he's written like a nice description here. Can quickly just read it. Even this PR addresses the remaining feedback raised in 1507 by Blue, Matt, and Val. In general, this PR refactors as many aspects of 150 which could have been done in a more suitable way, as well as fixes a memory leak. Let me know if there are any more aspects of 1507 that need fixing. So a really nice description as well, very clear. And notified like the relevant people who might be interested in this PR as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that really solid description. You definitely want to have a PR description and a title as well.
Cool.
Yeah, another thing, I guess, I don't know what section of this it would fit into, but if you're kind of opening a lot of pull requests, we may at some point want you to contribute more to review. Like, I totally get that it's more fun to write code and open pull requests than do code review, but that's definitely also kind of part of the culture.
Yep, that makes total sense. Yeah, I think that's general of open source, and even across Bitcoin ecosystem as well, where like you said earlier, like things potentially are scrutinized a bit more because of like what's at stake and stuff. So people just have to like be a bit patient sometimes and bear that in mind, you know. Did you want to talk about like a bit about the commit hygiene a little bit? I think you wanted to go into it a tad, didn't you?
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit, there's a lot of context here probably
Yeah, of course.
that
Yeah.
people don't have. But I guess I just liked this PR because I thought the commits were very atomic. Like each one only does one thing. He's not shoving 3 different things into the same commit. And then another thing it demonstrates is that we do regularly do fix-up commits. So if you get a piece of feedback, then you can do like he says, the f-fix CI error commit is fixing up his previous commit. So that can make things easier to review sometimes. So there's no hard and fast rule about it, but it is something that happens. And the other thing is he's not just like merging main into his branch, like he's rebasing on main. I'm gonna hunt for this. So when you merge it into main, there would be this merge commit with a bunch of unrelated stuff just appearing in these commits right here. Whereas when you rebase on main, you kind of might be butchering the terminology, but you replay your commits on top of main versus just merging whatever has changed in. So yeah, there's a lot better explanations out there on that, but yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. That makes sense. Okay, pull request. Let's see if there's is there anything else I wanted to talk about on pull request. I
sent you another link, which is this is usually what gets sent out to people if their commit history needs some work. We just go by Bitcoin Core's contribution guidelines. So yeah, there's good instructions there.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go back again. All right, so I wanted to go back one more screen. Cool. Okay, so we're comfortable committing. We're comfortable opening pull requests. Can we touch on like the review side a little bit more? So let's go to pull requests again, because it's like you mentioned, it's very likely that in the early-ish phases, you'll probably be doing a lot more review than you are going to be doing like adding new features and changing a lot of stuff in the code base. So we have a label. I don't know how often it's used, but there are sometimes labels used, such as like seeking code review, which is like obviously someone's put that there because maybe the immediacy of the code reviews like it's quite high, or it's been maybe stale for a bit, and someone is just looking for review that way. Do you have any like tips for people who are wanting to like review code, provide feedback, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Seeking code review is a little weird because basically we need 2 acts by people that have merge access
Yeah.
permissions in order
Okay.
to merge a pull request. So that tends to
Hmm.
mean that the pull request is lacking either a first or both reviewers that can provide that ACK, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But you can,
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, you're totally free to review those pull requests. I feel like if I were getting started contributing to LDK and I wanted to
Hmm.
contribute to review, the
Hmm.
best way would probably be to ask on the Discord what would be good to review. Because I
Okay.
think what's kind of uniquely helpful about being a newer contributor and contributing to review is you can read our docs that we're writing, and
Hmm.
especially on things that are being made public in the API, and tell us whether they make sense from kind of an outsider's perspective. Because after you've been working on it for so long, things can make sense to you that make absolutely no sense to someone that's just getting started in Lightning or Bitcoin. So I feel like that is like an underrated, extremely valuable way to contribute, is just to, like, for example, the offers PR that's open right now. Or maybe I guess it just got merged actually, but it was
Hmm.
Bolt 12 invoices, and
Hmm.
there's just a lot of public documentation there where it would have been really good to know if someone that hadn't been contributing to LDK for 3+ years, like if it made
Hmm.
sense to them. So
Hmm. Okay,
yeah.
cool. And we're going to touch on like the documentation side in a second. But let's just go through like some of the more meta stuff of a pull request here. So we get like a code coverage report that is automatically generated with every pull request. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a bit
Yeah.
buggy, but it can be
Hmm.
useful sometimes because it can highlight what lines were not covered in testing
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
the pull request. So yeah, it definitely can be useful.
Okay. And then we have like your typical kind of comments in a PR as well that like
This comment right here
where
is actually a really good example of a new
hmm
contributor that was able
hmm
to look at the docs and identify confusing parts.
awesome.
Yeah, sorry, go on. Interrupted.
Yeah, no, no, no. That's a great point. Yeah. So this is typically where someone would give more formal feedback, kind of like long lasting feedback. Like sometimes feedback um also represents like documentation in a way as well, because like people, all of this is stored for going forward. So like one can always go back and kind of read the context around a specific pull request, or why a decision was made, or all of the discussion that went on around it. This acts as a form of documentation as well. So commenting is one way. Um,
Definitely.
then then we have I wanted to mention like the CI stuff.
Oh yeah,
I don't see it in this pull
it's under the
request.
show all checks.
Does it show? Okay, here we go. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
kind of
yep,
weird.
yep.
Yeah, if you open your
Okay.
first pull request, I'd say like 8 times out of 10, CI is gonna fail. Our
Okay.
CI, yeah, there's just a lot of
What is
checks.
the CI for people who might not just know what that is?
So CI is a continuous integration. It's basically a set of tests and build checks and compilation checks, etc., that are run on a pull request once it's been open, basically.
Okay.
So that will check whether the docs generate properly and whether
Mhm.
it builds on like no standard platforms,
Mhm.
and it
Cool.
checks a lot of different stuff. Checks a lot of different builds on Mac OS and Windows, and
Mhm.
different versions of Cargo. Because oh yeah, another thing to consider is that the minimum Cargo version we support is 1.41, which is
Mhm.
I think it might be the Debian MSRV or close to it. So
Okay.
yeah, it's always good to look at CI rather than just fire off your pull request and forget about it, because
Okay.
oftentimes there's some quirk from the super old Rust version or something that needs updating. So
Okay. That makes sense. And it also, we also do like fuzz testing and linting and stuff like that as well. Um,
yeah,
cool.
definitely. A lot of people ask whether there's a way to run our CI checks locally. Unfortunately, there is not a way. But if you search the code base for the build.yml file, all the checks are in there, and you can kind of
Okay.
run whichever one is failing on your local machine.
Independently, yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
That makes sense. All right, let's pause for a second and see what's going on in the chat because there's
Yeah.
been a bit of stuff going on. So let's see. I'm currently using BDK FFI to build a wallet-like Android app. Can I use LDK to replace BDK in my app, or is LDK only for running nodes, not mobile wallets, in its current state?
Looks like
Did you want
Steve
to take?
answered that. Hmm.
Yeah, Moneyball SF has kind of answered that for us as well already. BDK and LDK are complement to each other, true. And BDK allows you to build an on-chain wallet. LDK allows you to create and manage LN channels, make LN payments, etc. Do we need to say more? Is that kind of
Yeah, you kind of, I mean, if you want to build a Lightning wallet, you can use both of them together. But
yeah,
if you use LDK, you need some kind of chain or wallet management. BDK is
yeah,
one option. You can also use
yeah,
Bitcoin Core. There's different options. So, yeah.
yeah. Okay, we've got another one here. It's quite long, isn't it? So, is asking questions on existing pull requests a reasonable way to learn about the code base? I don't have enough Rust LDK knowledge to necessarily provide actionable PR feedback. Asking questions on PRs has helped me get up to speed at my job, but I'm not sure if that's a distraction to other reviewers, contributors in an open source context. That's a really good question, I think.
That's a really good question. And I think that would be a great way to learn about the code base. Definitely if you commented on any like spiral person's pull request, like, yeah, we're gonna answer you and try to help out or explain or at least like point to somewhere where you can find out more
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, if it's a non-spiral contributor, depending on who they are, I don't know how they're going to respond. But yeah, I think that's a really good way. Yeah, that would be a great way even to just get started and just get involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, I would imagine you're asking that question because the question you're asking on a pull request is very contextual. If it's something a bit more general, perhaps the first call might be Discord first, just if it's a more of like a general question. But if it's something that is a bit more specific and there's some code going on around it already and there's discussion already happening in a pull request, then yeah, I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be a good fit as well.
Yeah, definitely. And especially since because we have all these requirements about supporting different platforms, sometimes we do things in weird ways. So I think it can make a lot of sense to ask rather than just being confused or trying to search for hours or whatever. Like, yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So feel free to keep asking your questions, guys, if you have any, or you can leave them to the end as well. We'll leave some time to answer questions at the end as well. All right, cool. Switching gears again, I wanted to touch on another form of contribution, which is like writing documentation.
Hmm.
So I think there was a commit where Victor actually updated channel manager docs actually, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, let's talk about documentation, the different types of documentation we have. It kind of primarily exists in kind of two formats. So we have the Lightning Dev Kit website, which is I guess more high level documentation around what LDK is, the features it has, an overview of how to stitch the pieces together, blogs that consist of maybe like deep dives into a specific aspect of LDK, or if something has just been announced, we have case studies now as well. And we also have like an API reference documentation, which is kind of, I guess, auto-generated using Rust. So let's talk about the API documentation first, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the higher level docs after.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is definitely more of a, like you said, API level docs, a bit more
Hmm.
low level, but
Hmm.
I think this is a great and underutilized resource, particularly
Hmm.
for LDK users, and especially for
Hmm.
those users that aren't using Rust and are using other languages. So yeah, it's meant to be like very comprehensive. Like we're not scared of being verbose if things really need to be explained in a clear way, and that's the best way to do it. So yeah,
And
definitely.
what? Sorry to cut you off. I was just going to say,
Yep.
maybe in GitHub, can we show people like an example of how and where like documentation has been written? Um, could we do that?
Yeah. So so a lot of documentation is living on actual functions and
Mm-hmm.
structs.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if you went to pretty much any file that's like even the channel manager file or
Let's see if I can do a
oh,
search
you can
here.
even
So,
go, yeah.
so let's go channel manager.rs.
Hmm.
Yep. Okay. Cool. So we can scroll
Yes, you can
down a
see there's
little
like a
bit.
top level description up there that just kind of summarizes the module and what it's doing. So that also will live on the docs.rs site
Okay. So
for the
if I head over
module.
to, so we're in the channel manager now. If I head over to that in the official API documentation and type in channel manager, would it be
Yeah, the
this
top
one?
one. Yeah, and it should match.
Yeah, so we have the channel manager as a main chunk of logic, blah blah blah, and that's reflected here in the channel manager as a blah, blah, blah. So that's really cool because like you have the documentation existing where like where the API and the functions and all of the stuff has been written, so they're kind of they're closely tied, and when when changes are made into the API, like you can make changes to the documentation, like kind of in line with the work you're doing already. So that's really neat. And then have it kind of just like the docs auto generated for you. So that's like a really nice feature in Rust.
Yeah, super useful. And yeah, you can also do doc links, which is where you put those brackets on the outside of it, of whatever you're linking to, if you're linking to a method or a struct.
Okay.
And yeah, it's cool because if it's public, it'll show up in the docs website and it's a clickable link. But it's also
Mm-hmm.
cool because if the name of that thing that is linked changes, then the build will fail. So then you'll know you have to update it.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And so this potentially is like a really accessible way for someone to start contributing because technically, like you don't have to touch any of the actual code itself, but you can say there has been a change made to a tray or a function or whatever it might be, and for whatever reason the documentation didn't quite get updated, like you just have to go in and change a few comments and open a pull request. The docs will be auto generated and it kind of on your way to a good solid contribution.
That would be a great way to contribute outdated docs. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you're less likely to run into CI things as well.
Okay. Yeah. We got a question here. Let's see.
Mhm.
Why does Rust Lightning have such long files? Channel manager.rs is 8,000 plus lines long.
Yeah, it's pretty regrettable. Oh, wow. Feeling attacked. Yeah, we're trying to change that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently had a PR that pulled out 1,000 lines from there. So it used to
Oh,
be even
nice.
worse, believe it or not, if you can believe that.
Okay.
But yeah, that's definitely something that we want to continue working on. I feel
Yeah.
like it's kind of a historical quirk because this project used to be like a lightning playground, and then we decided like
Yeah.
we're gonna make this a real thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So okay, cool. We've got contributing to official API docs, which seems pretty straightforward. And then we have our more high level documentation, which I described earlier as like a bit more overview of what's going on, like a bit more about like our architecture and how things kind of are all stitched together. More practical stuff for maybe like users who want to actually start using LDK. So there's a building a node with LDK and Rust tutorial, and we're constantly working to improve these. So you can kind of go through and actually do the tutorials and see how you get on, and provide any feedback for things that are missing. And if things are missing, you can definitely like open issues around them. This sits in a slightly different repository in the org. So this is under the, let's see here, the Lightning Dev Kit.org website repo. And similarly to what you might do on the Rust Lightning side, like all of the docs are essentially, it's a bit different because all of the docs are basically markdown files, so it makes it really easy to update or edit stuff. Most of the pages have this kind of like edit this page button at the end of the page, and if you click on it, it should open you directly to the markdown file on GitHub. And you can pretty much just edit the text directly in the GitHub website UI without necessarily needing to open a text editor or an IDE or anything like that. You can kind of like see something that's not quite right on the website, click edit this page, and then make a contribution that way, and it will kind of automatically open a pull request or create a new branch and open a pull request for you, and then you can go through the review process like you would any other project, basically. So those are basically the two ways of contributing documentation to the project, and they're definitely good ways to get started, and potentially like more accessible ways to get started as well, but also really good because like reading through the documentation, improving it, changing it helps you learn the API a lot more as well, potentially. So definitely good ways for people to get started.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good one. Also, just using the sample, testing with it,
yeah,
that can be super useful.
So
Go for it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next thing, actually. So one thing people can do is and we've done a video on this. We did I think this was in 2023 now, right? I think it was early last year or late 2021. Time flies, but we did running a sample LDK node live stream. So if people want to go back and watch that on YouTube, please feel free to. But yeah, what would we be looking at for someone who is like, one, what is the LDK sample, and two, like, why should someone like run it, play around with it, test it, and then three, how can that help them? What can they look for contribution wise to something like that?
Yeah, I think, well, for the sample, I guess you would want to start with the README, because that just basically tells you to clone the project, and then it gives you a sample command. So you will need it uses Bitcoin Core right now, but when I use it for testing, I just use Polar, which makes it pretty easy because you don't have to actually set up Bitcoin Core. So yeah, I'd say that's how you would run it, and then it'll print out a little CLI with a little help thing that you can see to see all the different commands that you can do. So yeah, you can open channels, send payments, all just kind of the basic stuff. I feel like it can help you use or contribute to LDK just if you ran into issues, especially if you were trying to do some weird like 6 nodes all kind of, sending payments together, or just if you ran into any sort of confusion, like, oh, I have some balance, like, why can't I send using it? Maybe that means that we should be updating some documentation somewhere to make it more clear. Yeah, so that kind of thing. And I feel like it could also be really good if you, because the sample is meant to be readable. Like, we have a very basic CLI because we don't want to introduce a ton of dependencies or kind of unrelated code, if that makes sense. So yeah, just reading through it, even trying to modify it in different ways and seeing either what breaks or if it still seems to work, like referring to the docs. I feel like those could all be ways to either see where the documentation needs more clarity or yeah, even finding bugs or anything like that.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. I'll just hop over to the chat very quickly. Moneyball SF has left another comment saying, Matt has suggested a good way for new contributors to review PRs is to ask questions. as it can lead to the PR author improving PR descriptions, code comments, and code clarity. It may also lead to performance improvement or bug fixes. Yeah, we kind of touched on
Definitely.
that a little bit earlier, but yeah, good comment. Um, okay, cool. So yeah, with regard to the LDK sample is one written in Rust, two is customized in a specific way. So one of the things you mentioned is it requires access to a Bitcoin Core node. One thing people can do, but obviously, the Lightning Dev Kit is not just like a Rust focused project, and it does have the ability for developers to program in a number of different languages, including Java, Kotlin, Swift, and JavaScript. So we have examples of different node implementations on the website as well. So we have a link to our Rust sample node. We have a Java sample node that was written by another contributor. There's a Kotlin sample node. There's a Rust node with Lightning Signer integration as well, and some other like custom implementations. For example, a Rust node with sample Tor integration. So I say all of that to say that people can also contribute different example nodes, or
Yes.
customizable different let's call them recipes of node implementations as well. For example, like we said, the LDK sample uses Bitcoin Core's backend, but you might fork the LDK sample and swap out the Bitcoin Core stuff for like an Electrum server or an Explorer instance or something like that, and contribute that back to the project and say, oh, hey, here's a slightly different variation on an LDK node as well. Is that something we think is valuable and people can try and do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be really useful to have a sample using, Electrum, Explorer, even BIP 157, 158, like neutrino style.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say like any chain backend sample would be super useful, or different ways to persist, even
yeah,
just like filling out different flexible options that LDK has in different ways.
yeah.
Yeah, be super useful.
Yeah, exactly. And or obviously LDK needs an on-chain wallet, so you could potentially write a sample node that uses BDK for the on-chain wallet as well. That would be again, you could use this LDK sample that was shown here as a starting point, full kit, swap out the Bitcoin Core on-chain wallet with like a BDK based wallet. That could be a really cool variation, and contribute that back to the community so other people can start from that place as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, running in Wasm. There's a lot of different
Yeah,
weird options that are supported where it would be great to have some sample code.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely want to emphasize Steve's point that asking questions on PRs frequently leads to improving the code and improving the documentation. So, yeah, just to emphasize that. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Um, okay, I'm just checking if we have any more comments. No, okay, cool. um, okay, so we've talked a little bit about examples. Okay, let's touch a little bit on because we have got through quite more than I thought we would actually. But let's talk a little bit about language bindings. This is like a whole stream in and of itself. So like we'll
Yeah.
touch on it just very briefly. But one of the other repos that has a lot of activity is like the stuff around our language bindings as well. What are the language bindings, and like what approach should people take to potentially like contributing to those and helping improve those?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, LDK is the core part of the code base is written in Rust, but we get that not everyone wants to use Rust. So we have C bindings that are built on Rust bindings that are generated from the core code base, and then we build Java, Swift, TypeScript bindings that go on top of the LDK-C bindings. So the LDK-C bindings are not really meant to be used. They're just meant to build other language bindings on top of them, if that makes sense. So even if you're a C developer, you probably wouldn't have that fun of a time using the C bindings. But yeah, the Java and TypeScript and Swift should all be really good to go. So yeah, I feel like these repos don't tend to get a ton of outside contributors per se, but obviously they have a lot of people using them in their applications. And I think just using them and giving feedback on how they could be made better is probably a really good way of helping out. Yeah, we've definitely heard that there's a little bit of a learning curve with them. So just even just pointing out which rough spots you went through, just so we know and can maybe like flesh out docs or smooth out the UX in some way. But I guess also to note is that when LDK node becomes more mature, it will have different language bindings to it. So I think that would also kind of address some of those learning curve concerns that are kind of inherent to LDK itself in some ways.
Yeah, and you just mentioned it. I was going to be my next thing I brought up was LDK node. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about LDK node, because it's a project that is kind of moving pretty quickly, and it's getting close to a point where people are going to be start to use it and experiment with it. Maybe we had a discussion open about this, actually, to maybe give people a little bit more background information on what LDK node's all about. Let's see if I can find it here. Let's see, it was under maybe ideas, was it? No. Let's see.
Oh, what are you looking for?
Just the oh, here we go. Yeah, so just the RFC. Sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah, so okay. This is like kind of some discussion that we had around simplifying the API around LDK, because currently it does take some time to wire everything together and get a node up and running. So we're looking at a slightly more simplified API that will provide a dozen or so functions, and you can get up and running very quickly. And it's pretty suitable for different types of scenarios, especially perhaps mobile users and things of that nature. And it's designed to help people get up and running a lot quicker and have sensible defaults already in place. So here is like the discussion we had originally around like a very simplified API, so people can go back and read that and kind of get a gist for where we were going with this and where we are going with it. The repository where all of the work is happening, can someone post it? Yeah, I can do that. I can post the top level repo in a second. So the top level repo for LDK node is, let's see, it is here. Okay, Moneyballs on it. Thank you. Yeah, so the top level repo for LDK node is here. I guess there's a number of different things people can contribute. So all of the things that we've kind of discussed earlier around like reviewing pull requests, and I think we actually already have like a number of people contributing, like review and stuff, that are, let's say, not part of the Sparrow team or whatever you want to call it, that are contributing review and have really helped push the project forward and given like some really good feedback architecturally about what they're looking for. So appreciate that. So other than that, what other things can... Oh, we've got some French in the chat as well.
Ooh, yeah.
Is any native French speakers in here? Other than that, what other things can people do to help with this project?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like you should reach out to the main person behind it, T-Null. That's also his username on Discord. And kind of see what can be done to help. I'm not sure if he's at the point of wanting... I don't think he's at the point of wanting initial testers, but maybe in terms of API feedback or
Yeah.
possibly code review, possibly patches. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, he would definitely be the one to talk to if you're interested.
Yeah. One more specific thing is that this project is also going to be leveraging like language bindings as well. So although it's going to be written in Rust, the APIs are also going to be exposed in Kotlin, Swift, Python, hopefully, and JavaScript, TypeScript as well. So people will have the opportunity to test it out in those languages as Rust. We are close to having some bindings available in Kotlin. So if people are Kotlin developers and want to help us test that out, we should be in a place pretty shortly to test those out. And we're using UniFFI currently to do the automation on our bindings there. So yeah, people should keep a close eye on this project, put it on your watch list on GitHub as well. And feedback and stuff is more than welcome on this project as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let's see, what else have we got?
We could talk about security disclosures. I was thinking.
Yep. Good.
Yeah, I just sent you a link.
Okay, cool. Perfect, nice one. Okay, here we go. Oh, disclosing security vulnerability is very important. Do you want to touch on that a bit?
Yeah, so yeah, it's basically if you do find a vulnerability in LDK, either probably by reading the code base, maybe by playing around with it, or kind of like pushing it to its limits, like spinning up a million channels or something like that and DOS it or something, then yeah, kind of as it says, email to security@lightningdevkit.org and PGP encrypt the emails, which is always fun. So yeah, oh, it looks like Matt put in a sample command, so that's good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's I guess, a responsible way to let the project know that there are security vulnerabilities and like this is the preferred method of going about it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing to highlight versus like tweeting it, putting it on, or just opening an issue or something. This is really the responsible way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes total sense. Anything more we want to add to that? Anything more? I think that's kind of covers it pretty much. Kind of self-explanatory, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. It's just good to know about, kind of as a PSA.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, so we're coming to the end here, but I know you have some kind of more like random kind of code review PR tips that you want to share with people. Do you want to go through some of those with us as well?
Yeah, this is just kind of some random things I wrote down when thinking about this live stream, just to kind of give like a flavor of the kind of stuff that we look for in both like writing PRs and in code review. So it's a lot of stuff like, for example, a lot of our data structures, we want them to be accessible from multiple threads, so concurrently. So they're held behind like mutexes or locks, basically. So things to be aware of are like holding on to a lock for too long. Like you take the lock and then you do a bunch of computation, but you didn't really need to be holding the lock. Another thing would be like in the same vein, taking the lock, getting a small piece of information or whatever, and then releasing it, but then taking it again to get like another small piece of information. Like you should just be getting all of it under the same lock, if that makes sense. Like lock thrashing is lock thrashing bad. Another big kind of consideration that especially tends to come up with newer pull requests is backwards compatibility stuff with our because our serialization code is a bit confusing. We use kind of the TLV format that's native to the Lightning protocol. We kind of reuse that here. So yeah, you can look at the bolts for more information, but basically it's like you have the type of the thing you're serializing, and then the the value type,
Hmm.
and then the length, and then the value TLV. And
Hmm.
it's even for required types and odd for optional types. So you just have to keep in mind that, like, if you add an even type, you might be breaking backwards compatibility. So stuff like that. But
Okay.
that's also the kind of thing I feel like it's totally fine to just message on the Discord if you don't feel like struggling with it, because it's just so
Okay.
kind of quirky and particular to our code base.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then kind of the last thing I had here was just race conditions are also a big consideration. So just kind of thinking through, like, if I add this to the map here, but then another
Hmm.
thread takes the lock and they see that data, like, could we overpay or something like that? So I feel like a big thing you learn is just trying to think through and think of different cases like that. And also
Hmm.
on startup, like, what if we crashed here and we didn't persist this, yeah,
Is
just
that
kind of
is
want,
that is that
yeah.
is that is that is it a mixture of that stuff being like Rust specific, and or is it more like on the Lightning side, and it does like stuff like reading the specification and the bolts help with some of that, or not
Yeah.
really?
No, totally. Yeah. It's definitely a combination. I mean, it's very situational.
Okay.
So sometimes one or the other will be completely irrelevant. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely another thing that can come up is, like, if you are doing something with HTLC processing and you have to fail back the HTLC, something
Hmm.
really common is failing back with the wrong error code. So that's the kind of thing where you want to reference the bolts, make sure you're using the right
Okay.
error code. Like, if you're a final node, don't use an error code that's only meant for intermediate nodes, just like
Okay.
stuff like that. So yeah, but then sometimes it's very Rust specific. Like, another weird quirk is that we want to minimize the amount of vex we use. This is a Rust thing, like a vec,
Yep.
as opposed to a slice, which is kind of static. Vex can be, like, expanded. It's an array that can be dynamically expanded and shrunk.
Mutated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But because it causes memory fragmentation, we try to minimize the use of them. So
Okay.
that can cause, like, parts of our code base to look kind of weird. It's like it would be cleaner if you just allocated a vec and just appended to it, but instead we're, like, going through, like, slice by slice rather than allocate. Anyway, yeah, just
Is that is
there's
that is
just,
that
like,
is that enforced in like the linting rules at all, or anything like that, or
no, that's just
not
a
really?
code
Okay.
review thing. I don't think you can really
Okay.
enforce that via linting, because
Okay.
I think it's a fairly quirky thing to our code base, or at least when I asked
Oh,
about
okay.
it on the Rust Discord, they didn't really know what I was talking about.
Okay.
So yeah. Oh yeah, that's another thing. If I run into, even to this day, if I run into a weird Rust thing that I can't figure out, well, first of
Yep.
all, you can ask on our Discord, but sometimes what I do is I make, like, a minimum reproducible example in the Rust playground, and then I
Ah,
send it
yep.
to the Rust Discord, like, not the LDK Discord, but the Rust Discord,
Okay.
and they are always seem really happy to help, and everyone gets back to me within, like, 5 minutes usually. So I used to lean on that a lot more heavily, but it's still useful sometimes. So
Mhm.
just so people know, yeah, there's the
Okay, cool.
Rust
Rust
playground,
playground.
and
Okay,
there aren't
that
any
makes
key
sense.
bindings. Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have a kind of, is it Rust 101 or Lightning 101? I think we have a Rust 101 channel on Discord.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Bitcoin Xavier says I should try Chat GPT. Yeah, I should try that. I want to try GitHub Copilot too. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right, cool. We are coming to an end. So we're streaming for like close to 90 minutes now, but we do want to leave like a couple of minutes for questions. If anyone has some questions for me or for Val, please feel free to send them our way. Let's see if I missed, just making sure I didn't miss any comments here. Man, I really wish I could read your comment in French, but I'm learning Spanish this year, so
Oh yeah, you got
maybe
to.
maybe maybe next time. Try ChatGPT for such issues. What's your thoughts on ChatGPT, Val? Do you like it? Fan? Not fan?
Yeah, the memes are really, or at least they were really funny for a bit there. Yeah, I'm not scared for my job, but I think it's really interesting, and, like, yeah, it
Okay.
seems cool. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, and I'm like, I'm in two minds. Like, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. I'm like, for creatives, it seems like it can be like a way to be like a
Double-edged
catalyst for,
sword.
yeah. Well, no, like a catalyst for more ideas, more ideation, and like they put the finishing touches because like I don't feel like it can ever have like that human blood, sweat, and tears kind of that goes into something, but. Who knows, man? It's getting very close. Some of like the art and stuff that's been produced is pretty cool and stuff. So
Agreed.
who
Yeah.
knows? Yeah, it's definitely something to watch. But it's a great tool together with Copilot. Oh,
Huh.
what's Copilot again? I don't know what Copilot is.
It's the like GitHub Copilot thing. I think it uses AI to it'll fill in code for you.
Ah,
Bitcoin Xavier uses it.
ah,
Yeah.
ah. It's spilling the beans. It's letting us know all his secrets. Okay, I've made a
Yeah.
note to check check that out. Okay, this is what we're talking about. Copilot. Um, your AI pair programmer.
Sounds
Wow.
great.
Maybe they are coming for our jobs, right? Actually, like maybe you spoke
That's
too.
true. I may have spoken too soon.
I think you spoke too soon. All right, cool. Well, if there's no other questions, feel free to join the Discord. Feel free to leave us a open an issue. Feel free to start your review process. Feel free to like DM me personally on Twitter if you want. Like if you still need a bit of guidance on starting your LDK contribution journey. But like I said, like it's a library that is open to everyone to contribute to in like various different ways that we discussed. Like um it's not just the software development side of things as well. Like if you want to evangelize for the project and help get people up to speed with the project and help people learn how to use it, education is important as well, and spreading the word about LDK and how it's going to be used by different team developers environments. That's all really positive stuff. That's all really good stuff as well. So it's not just limited to people who want to develop as well, but it's kind of a wide range of things people can do, and hopefully we've been able to explain some of them. One of the things we didn't get into is like really deeply is testing.
Mm.
That'll probably be in a follow-up show most likely, but we're gonna get into like how you can run tests, how you can write tests, how you can make sure they're running correctly, like in CI and stuff like that. So we'll probably get into that in another episode. Just making sure I've not missed anything too crucial. No, I think we've covered a lot of stuff. So yeah, Val, thank you for your time. Did you want
Yes.
to leave us with like any kind of like last words about contributing to LDK, open source in general, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Thanks for having me. That was really fun. But yeah, please experiment with LDK, use it. We would more than welcome your contributions, no matter what your background is. So please consider doing that as well. And yeah, check out the project. Thanks for watching and hanging out.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in again. Leave us a comment on or leave me a comment on Twitter, on YouTube, on like future episodes you want to see. Like we've got a whole host of stuff coming up this year as like we continue to build and we continue to spread the word about all of the technologies that are being built to make it easier for you guys to, build on Bitcoin essentially. So we'll keep working hard and we'll keep trying to do the good work. So thanks for everyone for watching, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Yes, stack sats too.
Oh yeah, stack sats always. Let's
Yes.
see last comment. Okay, thanks Bitcoin Savior.
Yes,
Catch
thank
up with
you.
you soon. Right, let's see. Here we go.